How's it going, internets? Looking forward to get some painting done. I want to background.
Yeah. Hi.
Mm-hmm. Because he's super cool.
I'm the coolest, man. I can't even hear you guys over the explosions.
Are there explosions in space though? Is that right?
There are.
Oh my gosh.
Inside.
Then you're still a vacuum.
Yeah, there's a vacuum. Oh wait. It's Josh's Eve spaceship landing.
Yeah, did you like my noise? It's like the Jetsons, bro.
No, man, that's the noise the flux capacitor makes while it's tapping into the energy from the lithium crystals.
Oh no, this isn't about Necrons at all. I think Necrons are pretty cool. They feel kind of like they play a lot like Death Guard, which is my primary army, and I'm all about the Nurgle. This is for my buddy Keith. I've been painting this. It's the Necron Sereptic construct. It's the one with all sorts of like giant cannons and whatnot. The model's super cool, and you can do a lot with posing it. And I think you can do some fun stuff with your paint jobs. This is just the black armor plating that my buddy has for his army. Like he's yeah, it's not a lot of great light, but it's got the black armor, doing like some copper accents, and then I'm gonna touch it up after I finish up the detail with a little airbrush for OSL and whatnot.
We love the OSL.
Super cool, except there were gaps all over this like no other. For as pricey as this model is, it is really huge, but there are so many gaps in all the resin that I had to do so much work. This model would have been painted in like 3 days if I could actually paint it in sub-assembly. But the gaps were so bad that if I had painted it and then put it together, I would have had to just completely fill it and repaint it again and sand it, and that just did not seem like something I wanted to do at all. So it's been a real pain to paint because there's just like lots of little layered details and like that are hidden behind other pieces. It's annoying.
Did you build it or did he build it for you?
No, I built it. That thing, building it was about 2 or 3 days of my life. I'm not kidding. It was that bad with the gaps. But
do you know how you fill gaps? Super glue and zip kicker.
Oh, I have the industrial bottle of zip kicker. I'm not kidding, in my drawer.
Oh no, I mean I just drip the glue on and then drop zip kicker, and that I just create entire
just a web
structures.
You don't. Oh my gosh! I threw it across the desk. That was a good grab. You don't use the liquid green stuff?
No, that liquid green stuff is trash.
No, man, I love liquid green stuff.
It does nothing.
Liquid green stuff.
Trash.
You obviously don't know how to use it.
Glue is way better.
Explain how to use it.
Good for filling like the thinnest of a little gap, like just that like little surface gap where there's a seam that comes together.
Which is what glue does easy.
I mean,
I find that the zip kicker, like, it can get your fingerprints on it. It goes all sorts of directions.
Yeah, it can make it expand. It's good for certain pinches. Like if you're needing to glue something where no one's gonna see, and you just need to get a lot of like just a ton of glue in there. I think it works well for that. People say that it makes the like joint more brittle.
It does.
I have never experienced that in my life, but I do a lot of pinning too, so I guess it doesn't matter so much then.
Well, yeah, not if you're pinning everything. So wait, Sean, you use liquid green stuff?
Yeah, man. So I use it for like minor imperfections and stuff like that. So especially when you're talking about your Forge World resin stuff, a lot of times you'll have like surface bubbles and those kind of things, which is exactly what it's fantastic for. So you're never going to be able to fill a real gap with it, right? That's for the real green stuff. But what I like to do is I like to build up my green stuff, whether it's the regular putty adhesive or the liquid green stuff, larger than it's supposed to be, and then I like to clean it up and like sand it down, those kind of things, because then you basically just whatever you're doing, it disappears into it. But the trick I found with the liquid green stuff is I like to mix mine with water. So I'll get it with like a palette and my little scrapey knife tool. Let me see if I have my scrapey knife tool. It's entirely possible I stole this from you like 15 years ago.
I like that its name is Scrapey Knife Tool, though.
Oh yeah, I even have like if I lose a knife, did I steal it from you, Aaron?
Yes.
Wouldn't surprise me. Same one.
That's from my wax carving kit.
Well, this thing is the bomb. This is like my primo sculpting tool that I use for everything. But I'll get a little bit of green stuff out. I'll put it on the liquid green stuff. I'll put it on a palette and I'll mix it with like a drop or two of water so that it's like super, super thin. And then I'll go ahead and I'll start, smearing it on my little holes, and I'll build up a couple layers of that, normally like 3 or 4 of them. And then once it dries, you've got a little bit extra on there, but you sand it down, and it just disappears. So for minor imperfections, for evening out a surface, any of that kind of stuff, it's just fantastic. But again, you're never gonna get it to hold something together. You're never gonna get it to resolve a serious seam or gap issue.
Yeah, I found it also works really well if you just need to get a little texture on like a cloak or something like that.
Oh, absolutely,
Like
absolutely.
watering it down like you were saying and just kind of sculpting it in there. It's good. I love that.
Interesting.
Josh is vetoed.
I'm just saying, I do everything's the easy way. I'm the efficient painter slash builder. I'm not the good slash quality builder. I never claimed to have been.
You are very good and very quick, though.
Yeah, it's because you always plan out your schemes, which I think is like kind of important.
He plans his schemes.
No, that's what I'm saying. He does.
Oh yeah.
So that you can do it so efficiently.
Yeah, I have no capacity to do that whatsoever. I start putting paint on something, I'm like, that looks cool, or it doesn't. Doesn't matter. That's what we're going with because that's what I painted my one model, and I'm not gonna, waste a model. And I hope I can do that again.
I want to pretend that I'm a real artist, and I'm going to say that the model tells me what color it needs to be.
Right.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, you're. What did Michelangelo say? I'm revealing the sculpture that was inside of the rock.
Yep.
Yeah,
Hey, Aaron,
something like that. Nice.
Why are we like looking into your forehead?
Well, I can't see I'll fix it.
It's a beautiful forehead.
Quite beautiful.
I'm at the end of my ropey thing is the problem.
Okay, the ropey thing.
And so, here, I know what I'll do. Give myself a little bit of room there. There we go. How's that? Are you looking into my forehead anymore?
That's better.
All right.
Josh, do you have a ogre army for AOS?
No.
Why did you get those Mantic models?
I got them in a trade, really, really good deal. So.
I see. And then somehow you're gonna find a way to trade that for all of the new Primaris bikes.
Yeah, probably.
That's what's gonna happen.
Josh knows how to trade up. I mean, shit. He traded like half his stuff for a baby, right?
Yeah, that's true. I did. I actually have 2 babies now, so it worked out even better.
Yeah, no kidding. Double the value. You know how to trade up, my friend.
I think one of the first, I'm pretty sure that Josh and I, we played that tournament, and then the next time he contacted me was to sell me the army, right? So that you could get your car fixed.
I don't know. I can't remember.
I feel like that.
There's been so many deals in Josh's life.
Oh, that's how I met Josh myself. I wanted to.
It's how I met him.
Yeah, I wanted to start playing a War Machine, and I show up and I'm watching Josh play a game, first night ever.
And he lost, and he was like, "You want this army?"
No, I was like, "Oh, I want to play Crix, I'm thinking." And Josh was like, "I have like half the starter box out in my car. You want to buy it from me?" So, I did a dirty deal for some Crix outside the game store on a Thursday night with Josh, and that's how we became friends.
It's true.
Oh, Josh.
It's a true story. It's a true story. You know what? I don't like these contrast paints on this guy's skin. That makes me sad.
What color contrast are you using for his
The
skin?
Gilliman. I mean, it'll probably look fine once it's all done, but I don't like it.
Oh, is that it has like a little red tint in it?
Yeah, it's a little too smooth. The skin's a little too smooth, not enough texture. So it just looks kind of
Let me see. Can I
gloopy.
see?
Like consistent.
Yeah, hold on.
You're
There.
barely, I don't even know if that counts as a miniature. I feel like you're just
I ain't sure.
you're painting something ginormous.
Yeah.
So
Sean,
what are you working on hobby related?
Man, I got so many projects that are just like sitting around. I got a shelf with an entire Primaris legion of, God, I don't know, there's 20 Hellblasters over there. 2 sets of that one starter box that came with the infiltratey guys, bunch of the snipers. I gotta finish painting my entire knight army. I got a couple.
How many knights are in your army?
I don't know. That's a good question.
You got
especially
the baby
since
ones and the big ones.
Yeah, man, I got all sorts of stuff. I got 3 regular size, a Castellan, and 2 of the little autocannon dudes, and a Warhound Scout Titan. Both double flamer and double turbo laser for that dude. He's awesome. Oh, and I have another free blade. I got a lot of knights.
Did you guys see the new changes for points today?
No.
Oh no.
They're increasing the points on everything.
Okay.
So like cultists are now 6 points.
Oof.
Intercessors are 20 points apiece now.
Intercessors are?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and that was just what their example was. So they're saying that games are going to be smaller, and that will allow for more tactical situations
they're changing
to
the
occur.
points before they put out the rules?
It's the same thing. No, it's the same. It's like a preview, but they're going to be changing the points.
Oh, I got you. Has there been any word on the app yet? Have they talked?
Yeah,
about
it's supposed to come. Yeah, they talked about it today. It's supposed to have a functioning army builder, and it's supposed to be out day 1.
And did they announce what day 1 is?
No. But when day 1 comes, it's supposed to be there and working.
Day 1 is the day before day 2.
This is true.
Well, I want a bunch of Primaris bikes. So what does that mean? There's going to be smaller armies.
Yeah.
As many knights.
I mean, it sounds like model count. I mean, anytime you increase the points of stuff, you got fewer models on the table.
Which is fine with me. I like smaller model count armies in general.
Well,
They're
maybe
easier to paint.
Maybe if they're going to encourage people to go mono faction.
Yeah.
They're going to be sticking within their own faction. They're going to have fewer options, maybe, or you can kind of like make sure that everyone has like a more of a balanced number of good options by giving people less things to play with on the board.
Yeah. Well, it's smart of them to make things mono because if splashing doesn't give them very much financial kickback, but if people buy entire armies and then they want a second army, they got to buy a whole new army. So
but why would splashing not give them a financial kickback? I mean,
because everyone's going to be splashing just like a few models of a certain type, whereas I feel like if you have to buy a whole new army, and by changing the points to make things cost less, it makes entry into new armies cheaper as well.
No, but all the players that were already splashing before, now it's just going to encourage us of like, well, I pretty much have the like 1,400 points now.
Right.
All I need is a little bit more, and I can make a whole army out of this. And it'll get us to buy just more armies. But I get what you're. I don't know, because if it's going to be more points per model, it's going to be less models to paint for people to get into the game, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. I just
I
wish
don't know.
they.
It's just like, but part of the appeal for me is like I'm looking over at my Primaris army. It's like I can't wait to get both of my grav tanks in there and all of my walkers and my 50 marines and stuff.
So with that in mind, what are you guys hoping that is going to be like one of your projects on your table that's going to be really good at night?
Hopefully Necrons are going to be good because I got a crap ton of Necrons painted.
Yeah. Are you gonna, are they all the rust buckets, Josh?
What's that?
Did
Yes.
you paint them all rust?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. He's doing rust buckets again.
I want to see what they do with the Tau battle suits. As anybody who knows me knows, I got lots and lots
battle
and
suits
lots.
are always the coolest thing in the Tau.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's all I want to play. Like, right? I've got 100 Fire Warriors because you just had to have them for the last 2 editions now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just couldn't play. But it's not where my heart and soul is. My heart and soul is orbital dropped commando battle suits with plasma guns, just vaporizing people's faces, and I want to get back to that.
Well, they also showed some of the new. They showed one of the new scenarios, and it's basically like an ICT or ITC scenario with like multiple conditions, and then you can also choose your own from another thing. And it's like really complicated, which was surprising to me that they're going to start with that. I don't know.
Huh?
So are they just like formalizing ITC? Is that essentially what they're doing?
Well, that's what they want to get ITC out of the fray, is what I'm guessing. They want to take over what ITC is doing because that's them just losing revenue.
Yeah, they should be doing what Magic does, and they basically run their own tournaments and everything.
Yep.
Do you wait? ITC makes. How does ITC make money off of that? I don't understand. They run tournaments. They have their own. But they're still going to run their own tournaments. Like that doesn't give any money to GW.
No, but if GW is going to say that this is what the rule set is, that this is what we expect you to play by, and then they are going to all the new tournaments and stuff, then.
Yeah, like if they created a tournament structure like the ITC, then GW can say like, well, here is the official tournament structure for the game that you are playing, and we're going to back it with actual prize support, and we can do our own thing.
Yeah, additionally, then that's nobody else that they have to worry about monkeying with things, and they have control of the whole process.
I'm all for it. I prefer that. I just don't understand, like, the people who are running ITC and are still putting together all these conventions and all these things, like, they still have the people draw, you know?
Well, it depends if GW is like, this is this is what's going on now. This is what we expect. All the other bigger tournaments that are not ICT or ITC based, they'll just be like, just like they pushed Ninth Age out of Age of Sigmar, out of Adepticon. They'll just be like, we will come, but this isn't going to happen here, you know?
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what happened with the Ninth Age. They got kicked out of the whole building.
Yeah, and they went across the street. Yeah.
Well, they had to. It was a whole separate event though. Nothing to do with the Adepticon.
But I guess Ninth Age is like, I don't know if I would compare Ninth Age to ITC. I mean, ITC is still 90% the GW rules, and Ninth Age was starting to be not GW rules.
Well, it's 100% not GW rules at this point, but yeah. the point is that GW wants to control its own IP. And GW gonna do what GW gonna do.
That is true. I believe at this point in time, they are the largest and most profitable gaming, board gaming company. I'm pretty sure that they like took out, what is that, Hasbro. There we go. Yeah, that thing. So as Josh said, they're going to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be bad to add that kind of structure, though. The official tournament style play. I mean, they've got all the resources to do it.
Well, and they're engaging the community like
it a long time ago.
ITC does. So they're going to have the benefit of playtesting and all that stuff. So hopefully their crap will be as good as the ITC stuff. I keep seeing ICT.
ICP?
I just watched a video with them on it the other day. They were talking about their beef with good old Slim Shady Eminem.
I didn't know that they had beef.
Oh,
I didn't know that was still a thing. I thought that was like a I'm in high school kind of thing.
That was from when we were in high school. They were talking about when it did happen.
Oh.
I remember that now. I just listened to Weird Al Yankovic and Nine Inch Nails, so
good stuff.
I just listened to Eve Radio.
Do you know what my favorite Weird Al Yankovic song is not a cover. It's an original song. It's Melanie.
What's the name of the song, Josh?
Melanie.
Melanie. Oh.
It's a good song. I won't sing it because I don't want to get in trouble.
So Sean, your Florida is mostly ITC, right? Even the local game stores, like playing casual games, it's ITC format.
The vast majority of the stores around Tampa are. There's a big ITC competitive component over in Orlando, obviously with all the convention centers and blah blah blah. But I specifically play at a shop that does not do ITC because I could care the slightest bit about points and rankings, and like I've played tournaments where I've TO'd tournaments. I've done all that stuff, and I don't want to have anything to do with it. Like I don't want to be stressed out playing my game. Like don't get me wrong, I can roll dice fast and kill all your little plastic soldiers, except for Josh's little plastic soldiers, because they're really made out of like reinforced steel or something sort. I don't quite get it, but
it's the zip kicker.
It's the zip kicker. Yeah. Well, whatever they are, you shoot them in the head and they just don't die. Necrons are not. But the point is, like, it's not my style. So I play at a shop called Serenity Games. There's a really cool dude who owns it. He actually just expanded the store out. He's got like a little restaurant attached to it, as well as it's almost like a D&D kind of like cave room. It's fantastic. Fancy leather couches, nice lighting. He's got all of his super cool nerd memorabilia everywhere. And you can either, rent the room or just go over there and play Dungeons and Dragons with your friends. But so he just, runs the gamut. But the environment, right? I'm not going there to kick someone's face into the dirt or have my face kicked into the dirt or be stressed out about how fast can I get through my turn, so on and so forth, right? I'm going to have fun. And
so you don't play, it doesn't matter if it's ITC format or not, you're not playing in tournaments.
Kind of, sort of at this point, right? But even the tournaments that they run a con every year, and it's, small, maybe like 30 to 50 people. But it's called Fluffy Bunny Con. The missions are ridiculous. It's totally insane. The rules have nothing to do with ITC. And the vast majority of prize support are random drawings throughout the event. So it doesn't matter where you place, like the trophy they give out for having the best score is the smallest trophy, right?
Oh, that's cool.
It's fantastic.
I love that. I think that's great.
Yeah, because anybody that shows up, can get it. And I got people will get a box of something and they'll trade with their friend, or they'll give it to one of the, 15-year-olds who plays the army they got the box for that they don't need or they don't want, it's fantastic. And again, there's no pressure because you have just as much of a chance of getting, the fancy, super awesome painted, knight with the harpoon on it as everybody else, right? Or a box with some orcs in it, and so on and so forth.
I feel like that mentality is what, like, do you remember a couple years ago GW was, first of all, we received a $5 donation, thank you so much, but we all need to know that in 1998 the Undertaker threw mankind into hell and fell into the Spanish announcement table. All right, I read your comment there.
Love it.
Also, it's good to see you. I miss you. I hope we get to see each other at
Valhalla.
that'll happen. So like a few years ago, while GW was still in there, we're not going to do the whole social media thing. You remember when they came out with their defense of their business model, and they were like, 90% of all players are hobbyists, right? And they're not playing. And the people who are playing,
we're not a game company, we're a model company. That was the I think that was like verbatim the quote. We're not a model, or we're not a game company, we're a model company. And the community reaction was like, bro, you're called Games Workshop. You're not called Models Workshop. You're called Games Workshop, and you're not a game company. Yeah. So I'm sorry, Aaron, I kind of took over there, but boom, my head exploded.
But what I'm saying is, like, it seems like the public-facing thing of all of these large tournaments and all of these large conventions may not represent the way that most people want to play the game. You know what I mean? Because what you're describing sounds like, I wish Adepticon was like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because like, you go play Adepticon, and don't get me wrong, it's fun. It's a great experience. And if you like that competitive gaming, like, it is a rush, right? The whole day. But it is exhausting. It is not just, being on your feet for 12 hours, but trying to outmath your opponent, trying to outplay them, the whole thing. And, it's really interesting, right? Because it's not a sport. But dude, you get done and you're just wasted because of the effort, and like, you can't play down the physical hardship of bending over a table for 12 hours. Like, us old guys,
for 3 days in a row.
For 3 days in a row, dude, that stuff is brutal. And it's not, getting hit by a 400-pound linebacker at the speed of a truck running into another truck. But it's, it's a thing, and it takes some stamina, and like, you need to eat good food, and you need to like do a good job of like, taking care of yourself during that process, or you'll just die. But anyway, the point is, what's the enjoyment that you're getting out of it? What is the purpose of your time in the hobby, right? Are you, again, playing this game because you like the competition, you want to win, you want to find out who's better, this, that, and the other thing? Or do you just like, forging your narrative with your little plastic soldiers, such as Shield Hand Johnson, who's my buddy, even though I don't really like him, but we're still cool. Building that thing around your guys. And like, I have no disrespect for the competitive players and Josh,
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about either. But like, I got squads. My guys work together. I don't switch out weapons because it's going to work better in a game, right? My buddy and I play the campaign settings that they do. We did the I can never remember any of the names of stuff, but like, I didn't build my armies to play the mission. I built my armies with the guys that, hey, we're doing a shock assault mission. Like, I got drop pods with tactical Marines and Terminators in them, and I have access to Primaris. Like, it doesn't matter. What is my army? What is my commander going to do given this narrative? What are my soldiers going to do given this narrative, right? Like, my games aren't over till you've killed every single one of my models. My Space Marines do not retreat unless it's a tactical maneuver, right? There's no running from the enemy or doing something silly because it is technically going to win me more points or do this or do that, right? My guys on the tabletop, my tactics, my strategy is driven by the personality of my models, right? That I've built over years and years and years of playing all this.
What if they're afraid cats?
Stuff. You know what? They're dead. Those guys don't make it very far.
What about you, Aaron? What's your draw? What's your play style?
I was just thinking, like, that's one of the beautiful things about the hobby, right? Is we can play and do whatever we want within it. For me, no, I'm totally a narrative gamer too. I'm not at all into the competitive scene. I like to just get together with buddies and really just have fun. It's not at all about if I win or like how much I pummel someone or if I get pummeled. It's just about like having a good time with friends. So I'd rather play with the models that I want and have a really enjoyable time rather than having to paint and play with models I don't really like just to get a competitive edge.
See, I think that because of the nature of the rules and because of the nature of the meta, that I wind up having more fun at narrative games. But I actually really like competition, and I want to play more competition. And during Adepticon, like doing the 4-person 3-day team tournament, I find very enjoyable. And doing the doubles tournaments, I find really enjoyable. I don't find solo tournaments as enjoyable. You know, like I still want to be around people that I want to be around. To me, that's part of the fun of the hobby, right? And fun of the game is like, it's not just being around random people. My problem is that I don't want the meta to be as important as it is. You know, it's like I want to show up to a tournament with a couple friends, preferably a team tournament, taking the models that we like, that we know how to use, and have it be competitive. And unfortunately, that just doesn't seem to work. You know, like you have to take the meta.
Yeah,
Those Dark Eldar birds, man. Birds everywhere.
As far as the eye can see.
As far as the eye can see.
Yeah, remember they nerfed it and everyone's like, discount on birds? And those birds, that was such a brilliant ploy by GW. Those birds are so expensive. And they really made a killing on those birds.
Oh, and they're such garbage models.
Do you think it was a play?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it was bad playtesting, if anything.
I mean, you know that there's, like, I appreciate they want to take it over from ITC, but when a rule set comes out, what was the last one? Iron Hands, right?
Oh my god.
And then you go to a tournament and 70% of the players are playing Iron Hands and 100% of the top 10 is Iron Hands, and it's like that for, you know, 3
until they nerf it.
3 months. Like, that is a big problem, and that makes me super nervous about GW taking over the rule set and being like, we're going to be the competitive rule set, because that's not good. That's not good.
And Aaron, I think we need to tie that into the money, right? When you're talking about building, painting, and fielding, storing, whatever, everything that goes along with having an army, right? From beginning to end, has a monetary value attached to it, right? And to go ahead and say, hey, this is the most amazing thing ever. This is going to do a great job for you on the tabletop. And by the way, it just so happens to, in some people's case, be the army that you always wanted to be able to play with their own special rules, such as Iron Hands. I got a buddy down here who absolutely loves Iron Hands, runs everything as Iron Hands, doesn't matter what the rules are. Fantastic, super happy when it came out, smashed everybody's faces. But anybody who jumped on that bandwagon, right, and bought and built an army, so on and so forth, all that hobby time's wasted. All that money's wasted because now it got the nerf back because it was way too powerful. So, I mean, I feel like because of the monetary investment in the hobby, you know, we are owed a certain amount of playtesting, kind of a guarantee that, you know, A, the thing that we're getting isn't going to just ruin everything else, and B, that it's not going to just disappear in 3 months.
Well,
because that roller coaster is brutal.
Let me break in really quick. I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me. Apparently my mic is super low, so I have adjusted that. So if somebody wants to comment on my mic. We also have a comment that says, I play just to troll my opponents.
And that's the guy I don't want to play with.
And that is brought to you by, in 1998, The Undertaker threw Mankind off of hell onto a cellar and slammed across the table. So...
troll successful.
I agree with you 100%, Sean, but I interrupted Josh, so go ahead.
I was saying people are really damn smart, and there's always going to be things that GW or any company that is making rule sets for something, did not anticipate. I mean, I was just talking a little bit earlier for those who follow Magic. They literally just came out with a new type of card called a companion that would sit in your sideboard, but if you qualified all whatever it needed to trigger, you could play it from the sideboard directly into the game.
Interesting.
And so they immediately,
which should be a red flag. That should have been a red flag immediately, but okay.
They just nerfed it, and they had to change the entire mechanic. Now it sits in your sideboard, and you have to play 3 colorless at some point to add it to your hand, and then you can cast it.
Right. I like the idea of selling new stuff because it has better rules is a problem, because then you already have it.
Agreed.
And the idea that, you know, there's always somebody who's going to be able to take advantage and find a thing that wasn't intended. I understand that. What I'm talking about, though, is more of creating something like the Iron Hands, where it should have been play tested, and it didn't take a genius game cracker to figure out that this is insanely broken, and then it took them a really long time to respond.
Yeah, if you want to create like an actual tournament league and legitimate, you are owed some play testing for sure to say that your league is, like, your game is legitimate. And also, I agree, Aaron, that the company that makes the game also running the tournament is concerning, because then they can define the meta, and the meta is always going to be the newest thing, because that's why they're in the business, is to get people to buy lots of models, right?
Well, and that's what's going to sell, right? You define the meta, you change the meta, you're adjusting, you know, what is the most valuable thing monetarily in the game, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what it was. Was it Power Fists, Chain Fists? I don't know. There was some accessory that it was just impossible to get the bits for, because they're just the most powerful thing in the entire world. You know,
I think
when they
Chain
went ahead
Fists.
and changed it.
I think it was
Chain
I think it was
Fist?
Chain Fish in 7th is what you're talking about.
No, there was something, and it was I want to say it was more recent, since the Primaris came out.
Oh, okay, then I have no idea what you're talking about.
But no, there was something, and it was just, you know, like, everybody's selling these things. Oh, God, I wish I could remember what bit it was that I was trying to
Flight
get.
launchers for Death Guard go for sometimes $10 a pop.
Yeah, you know, and I get that, right? Because you're getting one in a box and those kind of things. But, you know, and I think that also speaks to the kits, right? They're not just have the ability to say, this is what you've got to buy to be competitive from a meta standpoint, but, you know, from that's a new addition to kind of their ability to control what we need to spend. But they've also had this in the background all the time of, hey, well, you know, if you want, you know, the maybe it was the Chaos Chain Cannons, or something like that. But, you know, if you want this chain, yeah, no, it was the big one that shot like five strength 5, AP 5 shots.
All right.
Whatever it was, you know, and everybody's spamming them all over the place, and they turned out not to be the best thing ever. But the point is, if you wanted to have a full squad, let's just say that you wanted them because they look really cool, which they do, right? I want to have 4 of these guys in a squad. I got to buy 4 separate, you know, chaos heavy weapon squads to get the pieces to make this thing. Right?
Well, we were getting a little far away from the comment that I wanted to make when you guys were talking about worried about the game running the tournaments. Literally every other game system does that.
Oh, absolutely.
W is the only one that's not like that, because they weren't stepping up to the plate, so the community had to.
I don't think that fundamentally there's a problem with it. I don't think that fundamentally it's the fox guarding the hen house, because companies can have integrity, and they can have, you know what I mean?
What?
They can. Companies can have integrity. Believe it or not, they can.
Deepwater Horizon for life.
And so long as they do it right, and they understand that they're, you know what I mean, that the competitive portion of this can't just be to push the newest model, then there's no problem. So I'm really hopeful that they're going to be able to tie this all together. They're going to have a more functioning rule set that that is more even across different types of armies, that allows people to bring things that aren't just good for the rules, but have good rules and that they like to bring, while maintaining some sort of rule equity, let's say, between tournaments. Because there's nothing worse than, going to a tournament and finding out that they're running ITC rules at a local game store, or finding out that they're using Adepticon rules, or to find out, we don't allow any errata, right? Like, have you ever gone to a game store randomly to play,
Yep.
and then they're like, no errata is allowed, and you're like, but you need the errata, right? So a universal set of rules that works for general play, narrative play, and tournament play would be very welcome, in my opinion.
And then Forge World's always allowed.
Look at my giant.
I don't know. Let me see. Oh.
Well, what I want to see out of, I agree with pretty much everything you said, Aaron. But like, I think that the most valuable thing that they would be able to get out of it, at least from a gaming perspective, not necessarily a financial perspective, would be the collection of data, right? If they go ahead and they sponsor, manage, and monitor, a GW supported, syndicated, blah, 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 tournament circuit, especially worldwide, again, which I believe they would have the capacity to do, especially based off their earning reports over the last 5 years. They could collect so much information about what works, what doesn't work, what's getting played, down to the actual models, and you can't tell me that you couldn't put out a list builder, right? Why does GW not have a list builder?
Well,
oh my God.
Well, they are
right?
now. Like, that's what they're promising.
Okay, well, we'll see it. We'll and the question is, does it do what the other ones that we know does? Does it have the capability to actually do the things I need it to do? Or is it just going to be like, hey, I've got a whole bunch of Marines in my collection. Yay.
I hope that it's a list builder, tournament organizer. Like, I hope it's the whole kit. The whole
I
kit
hope it
and
has
caboodle.
all the points and there's no points in printed books.
I hope so too.
Honestly, that would be really cool, because you could push out your errata through it. There's a lot of stuff you can do with that. But the point is, you could get everything in the same format, same data set, and you could literally just build access databases out of all this stuff that you're pulling from all these different GW tournaments and say, these are the things that work, these are the things that don't. Why do these things work? What equipment is going into these, and figure out how to more effectively manage the balance of your 10,000 units, right? Because that's
they have a
huge problem.
It's
a huge problem with the number of units, right? Because I can't keep track of it all. No one person can. It's too much stuff.
How much do you think the ability to play matters versus the rules of the units currently and in the past?
What are you talking about?
That's a rough one, Aaron. I'll cover it. So I played, I started playing at the very end of third and was terrible and didn't take it seriously and got killed all the time. And I played a little bit through fourth, same situation. But I started playing in earnest in fifth. And, I started going to tournaments and paying my entry fees and really trying to figure out how this thing worked, and got destroyed all the time. And then I got a battle brother who I played with, not in the tournaments, but all the time, weekly. And, he killed me all the time, but I monitored and watched and saw what he did. And the idea is that you can manage almost any situation, right? There is the game that we play: dice, miniatures, rules, tape measures, all that fun stuff. There are other components to any system that you can affect completely outside of all those mechanisms. You have the psychology, you have the behavior and the movement. What can you actually control, right? The only thing you can control in the game is where your miniature moves and who it's shooting at. Those are the only two choices you get the entire game, right? Everything else is dictated by some other factor that you either accomplish by moving your miniatures or choosing who you shot at. So there are these huge unspoken of pieces that somehow the power of certain units just obliterates. If I can re-roll everything and re-roll everything and re-roll everything and ignore your save and ignore your other thing, like it doesn't matter what choices I make. If I'm in range, my guys are dead, right? So there's some very real danger to what has occurred in the past, particularly with the most recent editions of the units simply overpowering the ability of a commander to command. With that said, the most valuable stuff that I've learned about 40K has come from Army field manuals, historical real battle reports of real battles. How do you effectively deal with a squad of infantry? Where do you put your guy? The principles are all the same. They have to be abstracted, but the point is it's there, and it more or less functions the same way.
I mean, I agree. I agree with that. Like, I think, if anything, when the Iron Hands Mania happened, you still saw the same top players in the top same ranks, even though they were playing Iron Hands and everybody else was playing Iron Hands. And there's a reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think... I guess rather I would say I do think that maybe that there's some unfair criticism that goes on to the power of things based on your own personal opinion of why you won and lost, when the reality is you probably won or lost because of a few tactical decisions that you may not even realize you made.
Absolutely agreed. Because back to my battle buddy, I would play with this guy and he would bring the most craziest stuff, right? I've had an entire just like flank of turtled up Tau obliterated by 5 scouts with with combi melta and a power fist, because he hit the exact right unit right in the middle, did all the stuff exactly the way he was supposed to, and got the rolls he needed to do the damage that he wanted to do, right? So the dice are always going to do what they're going to do, but you have to apply the pieces that you bring in the right way, and if you're doing that, you're getting the most out of them.
That's what Josh does.
And that's what Josh does.
But
he also brings the most powerful thing there is.
To make the right decision all the time. We have a few comments. Let me read them really quickly. We got some dude. I am definitely not a competitive player. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just have fun seeing if my tactics work. Mostly they don't. I am new. Yeah, welcome to the club. I'm not new and my tactics don't work, so don't worry about it. And then they don't need a list builder. They just need to hire the guy that made Battle Scribe. Yeah, I've said that before. Why don't they just buy Battle Scribe? I don't understand why they don't.
Yeah, I'm 100% on board with that, man.
Yeah. Having one centralized place to be able to build all the lists for all the games that you play for Games Workshop would be pretty amazing.
Well, you guys know how Battlescribe works, though, right?
It's community-built data banks.
I mean, GW can build a database through Access, no problem. The point is that do they have somebody dedicated enough to put in all the correct information?
But they don't need to. They could just pull the same thing, and they could still have the community do it, and they could just review it, or they could start doing it. It's just whatever. It's not.
I guarantee they have a rules database somewhere.
It's not hard. It's not hard.
But I just want to put my demons in once so I know what lists I can build in 40K and AOS. And then work. And then kill team.
I want to look at playing some smaller points levels for the new 40K. It sounds like they're trying to incorporate that in. That would be even less models.
Is Kill Team dead?
I mean, Kill Team is not a good game.
But I mean, do you think the rule? Oh man, I was supposed to paint silver on all these dudes' backpacks. Darn it!
I think Kill Team was a good game if you took out a bunch of the phases and rules.
So if you just didn't play Kill Team,
game.
Yeah, it was good. It was good if you didn't play the game.
Yeah,
let's just play chess with our miniatures.
Yeah.
So yeah, I heard that they put out something about Crusade. That's the more skirmishy style of 40K, right?
Right.
Did they talk really about it much?
Wait, what did you just say? I didn't actually hear what you said.
Agree with whatever I say. I was talking about Crusade, right? That's the
Crusade
smaller
is
scale
just
portion.
going to be, what I've heard is going to be a way to play the game where you're leveling up and getting stuff. They already have a system similar to that in Fantasy, or at least AOS is what I meant. So I'm not really hoping for much there.
So it's a slow grow league.
Well, yeah, I mean, because the same thing in that. You had experience, your guys got stuff, you use points to get new units. It's the exact same thing. They're using a different name for a different game, but it's the same thing. As far as I'm expecting that to be a big nothing burger.
I mean, I would say that when I think about the past games that I've played and just the games that like really pop out that I've had the most fun playing, there are two really important factors. One, the people that I'm playing with, not necessarily the people I'm playing against, because some of these games were in tournaments where it was about who I was playing with. But I would say, with the exception of the team tournament that Sean was at, the team tournament that Josh and I did, and the team tournament that Miranda and I did, pretty much all of the past games that are my favorite games that pop to my the front of my mind are all narrative games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you, dude. And we did a giant series at that same store, Serenity Games. I got together and kind of coordinated. We had between like 10 and 16 people per game, and they were APOC games. You know, everybody's bringing, what is it, 200 power level? I don't even remember, but basically like 4,000 points, right, was the standard across like 6 people and so on and so forth. And we had some really cool games, and we had some not so great games. When you're talking about that scale, a lot of it's about where you put the tables and those kind of things. But the coolest one we had was we got everybody's buildings together. Chaos had been beaten back and forced into their bastion. We built all these just craziness things and used all the rules from, right? Well, let me tell you, when you've got 30 buildings and they start exploding, shit gets nasty. So, funnest thing in the entire world, narrative, you're never going to see stacks and stacks of buildings and guys inside of them, and you're just never going to see anything like that in a tournament. And there's nothing better than, you know, your dude holding a hill against insurmountable odds, or, you know, him just dying trying, or watching, you know, 2,000 points of Chaos Marines just get vaporized in some random detonation that, you know, doesn't exist in a tournament. So the narrative is, all of my favorite games have been narrative. I've had some really good tournament games, don't get me wrong. I have some really memorable ones. But my favorite games, the things that I had the most fun doing, had something other than just me versus you going on.
Yeah, and I agree. I really am like Aaron. I like to have team games. I'm always a team game person, mostly because there's a diffusion of responsibility for the loss.
Nice.
unless you're on a team with Josh, and then it's just whoever isn't Josh is the reason why you lost.
You're the weakest link.
It's fun times. Do you remember that one tournament, the team tournament, where we had all the Tomb King chariots?
Yes.
And they're like,
And
can't even come on the board.
I remember that.
And yes. And we got we should have taken like top 5, but we got moved.
Didn't you get docked over some flashing or something like that?
No. So two things happened. So one, that was like one of the first. I think that was the first year that GW went back to Adepticon. I think it was the first year that they went back, and they were going to put us on stream. And Josh had made these really fun objective markers that were Pokemon, right? Because you got to catch them all. They're objectives. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And GW was like, no, we can't put you on the stream. Those are non-GW models. And we're just like, okay, we'll just use the Adepticon tokens. And they were like, no, sorry, not happening. So that was a bummer. And then in the end, the way that they did the ranking was by general type. So because each person brought a different army, so you could have like 2 generals of different types. And then there was a priority ranking. So the person who got 4th was the same general combination as Josh and I. And so that pushed us out of place because of the general combination, even though our points were correct. But in that tournament, what Josh is referring to is there was a scenario where the people who got to deploy first could deploy anywhere on the board, and then the other team who was going to deploy second essentially got to strike, like orbital strike, wherever they wanted outside of whatever it was, 9 or 12 inches of the enemy models. And we realized that because of the shape of our models and the way that we could put them down, and by we I mean Josh, that we could deploy in such a way where they literally had 6 square inches on a 4x6 table, maybe 12 square inches in 2 small pockets that they could deploy 2,000 points of AOS models, right? Like it was over.
To say they didn't win.
Yeah, it was over. It was over at deployment.
That reminds me of the story of the guy who was always taking bikes in from all the edges, so it didn't really matter where the opponent deployed. So another guy caught like wind of his tricks, so he just played all scouts. So the guy holds all his bikes in reserve, and then the guy just puts all scouts all the way around the table, and the bikes couldn't come in off the board anywhere, so he just auto lost. So is that what I'm hearing that you pretty much did?
We weren't able to get the auto win because the judges
changed the rules. Actually,
they changed the
like on the fly because he made this.
They
called timeout and said, "No, you can't do that."
No,
yes,
no.
Basically.
No. I told Josh, I said, that's fine. I'm totally fine with doing that. If we win the roll to deploy first, we're going to deploy that way. But I'm going to make sure that I'm going to tell the judge what we're doing before we do it because it's super dick. And so I actually told the judge, this is what we're about to do. This is how it's going to work. This is our interpretation of the rule. To avoid a confrontation with the other team, if they freak out after we do this, just please make sure that what we're doing is legal. And he said, yes, what you're doing is legal. And then they attempted to amend the rule so that we couldn't do it, but it didn't work. They were like, oh, actually, you have to make sure that, 50% of the guys' bases are touching or something. But we had units of 3, and so it was like, okay,
that's right.
We still deploy this way. Your change is irrelevant.
I think it gave him an extra inch on one side.
It did. It gave him an extra inch, I think. But yeah.
And then all your chariots kept coming back even if they killed them, right?
That's right. Aaron's particularly like that.
Oh, it was...
Remember against the Wood Elf army where they would like kill one and then like they would come back immediately and they were like, gosh darn it.
Yeah, that was... that. And then like we got to round 2 on the last game with the people who came in. I think they wound up coming in 3rd. I don't remember if it was round 2 or 3, but it was just very clear that nobody was making any progress, right? And so it was like, well, what are you going to do? And they're like, well, we're not going to do anything. And like, well, what are we going to do? Well, we're not going to do anything because anybody who makes a move at this point is going to cause a loss for themselves. So we just played it out, and it was like, okay, there we go. It is what it is.
And did you win that game?
No, we got a max point tie, which is like 4 It was like 4 points less than a straight up than the lowest win. So, yeah.
Those are only not.
What was the fun quotient?
The fun quotient was figuring out these strategies and having like Josh and I having a really good relationship and playing well together and understanding each other's strategy and still making it fun for our opponents while figuring out ways to smash face, right? Like that's fun. What's not fun in a tournament is what happened to us in the team tournament, like that was awful. And I think we
what was that?
You were there, Sean. You don't remember that? So
no, which one? There's all sorts of crazy stuff that's happened in tournaments.
The one where the guys didn't have the painted models.
The Eldar dudes?
Yes.
Oh, with the garbage tower and a bunch of like...
Yes. So they had alternate models that they weren't supposed to have. And so like there's a tower...
and none of it was painted.
None of it was painted. And then they started losing. And when they were losing, they got really crabby about it. And they started arguing about how line of sight works. And I just remember one point being like, okay... well, if you look at it from my model, I can see you, and I'm the one who's shooting, so that's what matters. And they're like, well, if I look at it from my model, I can't see you. And I was like, okay, that's called a disagreement. Why don't we just roll off, right? And their team captain came over. He's like, yeah, that's right. You just roll off. If you don't agree, then you roll off. and we won the roll. But they were just like, it was just awful. It was just awful because they were so competitive that they weren't interested in anything else, and their stuff wasn't even up to spec. Like, it wasn't even up to code.
The Adepticon team tournament?
Yeah, that was the Adepticon team tournament.
That's a shame because usually that's
It wasn't the team. It was the
4-person team.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't the 4-person team.
It was. What I'm talking about was
I never played the 4-person team.
Well,
that game that you're talking about was when you were doing the 2-person team.
Oh, the sisters that you played.
No. That was different. That was another really bad experience. That was a different experience.
Never mind.
But yeah. That was another really bad experience. The drunk guys is what you're talking
about.
The drunk guys who had the same exact army as us, who were really, really mad.
And marked us down really low for comp.
Right. So part of the score, this was
Nice.
a narrative. This was a narrative thing. This was the Long Wars Double narrative. And so part of the way that the Long Wars Double manage the scoring is that there is a player-driven army composition score. And the more meta your army is, the lower the score you're supposed to get. Now, our army was really good because Josh came up with an amazing tactic and an amazing unit. And the cool thing about it is that it was one that nobody else had at the tournament and that I have never seen and that wasn't really talked about. So he found a unique combination for us to play that was really good, and we built our narrative around it. That being said...
Before Sisters were good.
That was before Sisters were good. But we still took Custode Bikes, and so we knew that going in, that we were taking Custode Bikes and that we were going to get some down score for that, which is fine. These guys were playing almost the same thing. They were playing Sisters and Custode Bikes. Their Sisters weren't as good as our Sisters. And at the end of it, they gave us the lowest possible score for army composition, even though their army composition was virtually identical. And they were drunk the entire time, and they were angry when they were losing. Drunk and angry.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. If you're going to go to a tournament where you're allowed to drink, by all means, if you're going to get sloshed, get sloshed. But... don't be a dick about it.
Be a happy drunk.
Yeah, be a happy drunk. Be chill. Like if you're an angry drunk, this is not the game for you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But, I would say in general, I've had a lot of fun at Adepticon. I have a lot more fun at tournaments when I'm not doing tournaments every day. I don't think I'm ever going to do that again. I think the worst Adepticon I ever had from like burnout and not getting to hang out with my friends was playing a tournament Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday across 4 different game systems. And that was too much.
Because you had that really good Kings of War experience, right?
Yeah, that was the year that I stopped playing Kings of War because of their tournament. What happened at their tournament?
And they had some stuff with the models got. These aren't Kings of War models or whatever. Right?
Yeah. That's what happened. Is I was playing.
It's just bananas because that whole system is already copped off of Warhammer.
Right. It was when Kings of War I think it was when 2nd edition dropped. But their 2nd edition was right when 8th died. So their 2nd edition was essentially 1st edition. It's like when everybody started playing Kings of War because it was the alternative. It was either 9th Age or Kings of War. And they have rules for the entire GW line, but they only made 2 or 3 of their own armies at the time. And I brought... What did I bring, Josh? Empire?
Yeah, I think
Kingdom of Men is what they called it. And it was the first time I had ever spent weeks and weeks painting an army to competition level detail. Like, not just tabletop. Like, actually making it so that I could be in contention for best painted army. And I think I did a pretty good job. Like, I think my army was really good. And I didn't even get judged because they were like, these aren't Mantic models or whoever the heck makes that game. Right? And I was just like, okay. I'm done with this. I'm done.
So you can play in the event, but you can't get any credit for the army that you're playing.
Right. And because it was a smaller event as compared to GW, I probably was the best or second best painted army there.
Yeah, normally Kings of War doesn't have really great painted models either. I think the people who play Kings of War just want to play, and they don't really see any of the hobby as important other than to meet minimum.
I mean,
standards.
Jerry does. Jerry's armies are always really nice, I think.
Isn't Kings of War where you can like basically push around dioramas, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's what I loved about it. And I built these gorgeous dioramas, these gorgeous snow-covered dioramas with all these knights on horseback, right? Like, and I spent really not just a long time painting them. I spent a long time painting them well, and then just got completely kicked out of the painting competition.
Yeah, that's well.
Yeah, I think, and Aaron, I think that goes back to some of the stuff we were saying about, GW earlier. Not necessarily with the same thing, but what's the value of the time that you put into this hobby, right? Like the value of my time that's gone into the hobby in comparison to the money I've spent on plastic. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of plastic in my garage. Ask my wife, but the value of the time is exponentially higher, right? I have this investment in this hobby, even though I haven't, built anything in a month. That's so far beyond the actual dollars that I've paid the company, and I think that there needs to be some appreciation, some respect for that from the manufacturer, right? To really, really get that tournament circuit squared away. So.
I actually don't think that painting should be judged in a tournament. And the reason,
interesting perspective.
And the reason why is I think that you should require that armies are painted, and that you should require that the armies are painted to a level of competence. But the problem is there is no way to actually know whether or not people are painting their armies.
True. Absolutely true.
And why does that matter?
Dude, when I TO'd a tournament, I gave an award to a dude who came up to me afterwards and was like, yeah, I didn't paint these models. These are commission painted. And I was mad and I was annoyed because I knew the dude who got like second place. I didn't do any of the voting. I just handed out the stuff. And I was like really, really frustrated because like you didn't do, you paid for that, right? You didn't do.
There's nothing wrong with paying for it.
There's absolutely nothing wrong. And I have commission painted miniatures all over the place, but like to enter something in that case, right?
Yeah, I don't like that.
Or forced painting, scores that play into your overall score. Like I'm with you, Aaron. I think that it discredits, the people who have spent a ton of their time and effort, even if it's not the best paint job, but like they personally have the investment in that. Like the value of that time is astronomical in some cases.
Yeah, and I think for any sort of competition that is craft sort of based, whether it's like painting or sculpting or ironwork, whatever it is, you can't enter someone else's piece and win. Like you can't even enter someone else's piece. It has to be yours, right?
Yeah,
right.
But I think what Aaron's getting at is the mandatory painting scoring, right? Because there are a lot of tournaments that do that. They have a rubric and they say, your what is it? Your competitive score or your player score, your interaction. Your PR score is part of it. Your meta level is part of it. How you actually did in the tournament and the quality of your paint job, right? And there's check boxes. Is your base, is your model based? Is your model scenically based? Is your, so on and so forth.
Just go back to Ard Boys. You know what Ard Boys is?
The podcast?
No, Ard Boys is when GW ran tournaments that had no painting requirements, and you could just bring a naked.
No. That's not what I'm saying.
I'm saying though that they used to have just like a kick your teeth in tournament called Ard Boys, and it was just winner takes all, no painting requirement or anything, which is kind of interesting.
I think that sounds fun too. I think they should have that. I think that's great, and it might get some of the people who need that out of the bigger tournaments where we don't need that attitude. All I'm saying is, like, when you go to something like Adepticon and you're spending a lot of money to go there and you're taking a lot of time, you want to have the best play experience. And I don't mean the best play experience as in playing against friendly people because you can't control people, but you want to have nice terrain and you want to play against nice models. So you should have a painting requirement. I don't think that you should have a painting score. And if you do have a painting score, it should be very clear that if you're going to enter the painting portion, it has to be something that you painted yourself, that you didn't commission paint. But there's actually no way to manage that. So that's why I just don't think it should be part of your overall tournament score.
Yeah, I think it would be fine if it was a separate event, right? You have to have the requirement that it is painted, but you can enter your army into the side event that is best, army on parade.
Right. It's like you can't play in the tournament if you show up with crappy models. Like, we all agree on that. At least for things like Adepticon and Nova and stuff like that. But, and I mean, because like, how do you know that the people who won the diorama stuff actually made their dioramas?
Correct.
Why does it matter?
Well, tell me why you think it doesn't matter.
Why does it matter? I mean, here's what I think. Painting is about time, really. I will just say, if you spend enough time, your model's going to look pretty good, because if you spend time, you're going to learn techniques and you're going to do stuff like that. Well, some people don't have time, but they have work that can pay other people to do that for them. I don't see a problem with somebody entering in into a tournament, not a painting competition, but when you're talking about paint scores, you're not talking about a painting tournament. You're talking about a big tournament that also checks for your paint. And I don't actually think that should be in any of the rubric whatsoever. It should be a separate thing completely. Like, it should just be a painting event. But I don't have a problem with people paying other people to do stuff, because some people have skills that others don't. If you have a really grand idea, I mean, you can't say an architect isn't an artist, even though he doesn't build that stuff. So, I mean...
But an architect, but architects don't win awards for submitting other people's building designs. No, they had the design, they just didn't do all the work. But architects don't win building awards for hammering in nails. They win design awards for designing a building. And if you plagiarize somebody's portfolio, you will be fired, and you can lose your architecture license.
Yeah, whatever accreditations and stuff you have.
That may be, I'm talking about the fact that they can still have artistic vision and not have a thing to do with the actual building.
I see what you're saying. Like, you can say, I really, really like this idea, and I want to execute it, and I need help executing it.
Right.
And so, is it okay to get help? Sure. But should that be part of the general score at a tournament? When you go to Adepticon, do you expect that to be a portion of the first place score?
I don't think painting should be in that.
Okay, so we agree. Awesome. I win. I beat Josh.
Finally.
You agree, but you win.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I already said that. I don't think that painting should be in the overall score.
Yeah, it shouldn't be. And that way, there's absolutely no reason to not commission paint if you want to commission paint. Because I think that actually playing against people who do get commission painted full armies is really, really fun, because you get to play against something that looks absolutely incredible. And that is awesome.
And we spend so much time looking at the backs of the heads of our models that getting to line up against a really well painted army is
way more
like
satisfying.
Fantastic.
You guys don't put little bits and details on the back of your models just so you have something cool to look at. The back of this dude, I got all sorts of more details just because I want to be looking at his butt for 4 hours.
I put tiny motivational posters on the back of every Space Marine backpack.
My Space Marines just march backwards.
Just moonwalking all over suckers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want anybody to tell me that they can't get a model painted fast enough to put it on the table, because this guy's almost done. And we've been not on this call for very long.
Hour 15.
Yeah, man, but you're a monster, Josh. So
I'm using contrast paints. I'm totally cheating. There's no skill whatsoever involved in here.
I mean, painting's painting. It's to the level that you want and what you envision, right? Like just what we were just talking about. I mean, Josh, I've seen you paint an entire army in a single day.
That's
Because
true.
you're using airbrush. That's not cheating. It's you achieving the goals that you want, and it still always looks great. I mean, maybe from 3 feet away, but it still always looks great.
Why, thank you, sir.
Could you imagine what Josh's armies would look like if he did all of that work that looks great at 3 feet away and then he went back in and did details on them? Could you imagine?
I actually have no capacity to imagine that because I know it would never happen. Like the absolute of no destroyed my imagination. I want to imagine because they do look fantastic from 3 feet away. But as we're saying with the miniatures walking backwards, dude, 3 feet away is you're going to look at every one of your miniatures throughout your game 3 feet away. That's all you need. If it looks good from 3 feet away, that's what you're going to experience in the game.
Yeah, I think one of the most relieving things when that was kind of a breakthrough for me when I was really just kind of getting into painting was realizing you don't have to paint the underside in those little tiny areas that you can't see. No one else is going to see it. And
I'm a big proponent of that.
And are you entering that into a competition? No. Now you might want to feel that the model is complete by getting underneath there. But if you're just going to paint 100 guard, do you really need to get in there and make sure the underside of all the little pouches and pockets are 100% shaded?
I'm checking right now on my Marine, and I did paint the underside of all of my pockets.
Nice work.
But that's fine. That's if what you want to do. And sometimes I just zone out and I'm getting really down the rabbit hole of just blending some tiny little thing that no one's ever going to see. Like the people that will paint the panels inside their tanks.
I've always wanted to be a paint the panels inside your tank person. That is who I aspire to be. I've never done it. I've never painted a single panel.
Yeah, because you have more panels that are facing on the outside that are unpainted, right?
But I love if anybody watching this, if you paint the panels inside of your tank, you are a hero. You are a hobby hero.
I think so as well. Definitely a completionist for sure. And I definitely think that there's some sort of silent pride in knowing that your model, you have that guy.
No. Hold on. There's no silent pride. People who paint the inside of their tanks move their tank up and then they lift the top of it off, or they turn it around and they open the back flap, so that you know that the inside of their rhino is painted.
Yeah. They're kind of like vegans. They'll let you know they are one. You know.
It's so funny. I remember the exact moment that I started hating hobbying. It was when my friend pointed out the fact that I had burr marks on my models. From I never ever took them off. I never shaved them off, and I would just paint over them. And then he opened my eyes to having to look at them. This was a long time ago. But then I hate it. I hate it.
For someone who hates it, you do it a lot.
Yeah, I know.
I think scraping mold lines is one of the most annoying things about the entire hobby.
I agree.
It's messy sometimes. You always cut up your thumbs. And then you spend a lot of time on it. And then there's always that one mold line on that one leg.
Yeah.
And then your whole army is trash.
Yeah, you have to throw it away. You have to throw it away and buy a new one.
What the heck is this? Why am I putting the wrong color on here? Unbelievable. I'm only using 3 colors, so. Uh-oh, we're getting some other sound here.
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
What
Are you
up?
guys still here?
We definitely were not eavesdropping on your conversation. That didn't happen.
Definitely not.
Nice. Shauna said hi to everyone.
Hi.
Is she confused?
Hi.
Is she confused as to what's happening?
I mean, she doesn't quite get the whole perspective of why it's so important that GW takes control of the tournament circuit, but otherwise I think yeah.
Fair point. So Aaron,
Yeah.
how much hobbying have you been getting done?
Since like shelter in place, I have painted 3, 4, 5 Warcry warbands or
Yeesh.
so.
How many models?
More than 50 now. A bunch of Tzeentch, demons and mortals. I did for Adepticon. I was going to be in a Warcry narrative event, and I have this whole Gobbo army or Warcry warband that is based on Don Quixote, and like
Okay.
so there's 2 squig hoppers and I converted all of them to use like the knight bits that kind of come with the squig hoppers. So each one of them kind of looks like a little knight that is like following him, and he's chasing after a like a Varan squig, it's a squig that looks like it's lava skinned. So that's kind of like what he's chasing after in his kind of delusion. So I finished that up first, and that was right around Adepticon that I did finish it, or when Adepticon was supposed to be. And then I decided to break out a whole bunch of Tzeentch. And I also bought the Aether War box set. Basically, that's the AOS one. That's the Sky Dwarves and the Tzeentch.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Discs. Because at about the same time, Warcry released that big wave of all those extra packs. So
Right.
I got a whole bunch. I was like, well, now I can field 2 more armies in one box. That's cool. So I got those, did a bunch of Tzeentch. Just finished up some Iron Golems that I converted to look all nerdly that I think look really cool, really great. I finished Inquisitor Rex commission for my buddy. It's tough to see, so I don't have good lighting over here. But finished that with his little retinue, his little dudes. Now I should be finishing up this Necron. Hopefully by the end of this weekend, I would be very happy if I did that. And then I have a whole bunch of Nurgle stuff that is my pre-setup for painting. I got from Vince Venturella, and I'm gonna kind of hold it here because it's actually a little bit easier to see. But I do the black priming, zenithal highlighting, then a black wash over the entire model to cut back in all the recesses. Because you know when you zenithal, you get that good highlight, but then still the recesses that are on the top, they still get flooded out with white.
Yeah.
So I wash it then with all the black to cut back in all that. And then I do heavy white dry brushing to pick out the edges again. So it gets the full gradient transitions and it gets the dark recesses that are needed and the highlights. And then I start painting. And I do that because all the additional prep work there is actually really easy and takes very little time. And then some surfaces, it's one glaze and done, and it looks display quality nearly. I mean, it's not.
By glaze, do you mean the contrast white?
I don't have it around here. No, my white scar test for with contrast paint, that white apothecary white. It was about like a 20-minute paint job. You remember that Death Watch kill team that came with the biker?
Yeah.
White scar? Yeah, I painted him up, and I was just like, I'm just gonna paint him all straight white scar and say whatever for backstory and lore. He came back to the white scars after.
So we got some more good comments. We got I used to paint the interior of the tanks, but stopped once I started using the interior space for wiring my LEDs.
Oh,
Nice.
So I guess
the next level.
So that's like, I guess that's where everybody who has LEDs used to be people or would have been people who painted the inside of their tanks. And then we also have a comment that says, I painted 2,000 points of Sister of Battle during lockdown and then modified them so that they were all topless. ... Okay.
Well, everyone's got a lot more alone time right now.
That is true. That is a
I
fair...
just lost this paint that was right next to my hand for like 3 minutes.
That's what happens when people start talking about topless sisters.
That's...
A full 2,000 point list, though, during lockdown is admirable. I'm glad a lot of people are at least getting stuff done. It's going to be interesting to see what is good when all this is done, because what was the book that came out that had all the Astra Militarum stuff added? That was like right around the time.
There's a whole bunch of new stuff coming out all the time because they're doing that weird Phoenix Rising or something.
Yeah, the psychic awakening stuff.
Yeah, that's what I meant. And then the Mechanicum are coming out this time.
I love the new Mechanicum.
Oh,
I
you-
love
You
the new
love
Mechanicum.
them.
Ornithopters, yay!
Yeah.
God, Sean, I'm gonna throw your vape out the window. I swear to God. I'm gonna murder your vape pen.
I'm not even gonna vape. I'm just gonna at you and everybody out there.
What about you, Sean? Have you done any hobbying or no?
Nah, man, I have not. I've been a super slacker when it's come to hobbying. I have thought long and hard about stuff that I should be doing and then not done any of it.
I feel like I've spent a huge amount of time organizing. I'll be like, I'm gonna work on this, and then I organize it all, and then I go to sleep or watch the news, and then lose all motivation to do anything.
I'm gonna name this guy Skunkback. Yeah.
Why?
He's got like a skunky.
Oh, that's looking good.
Gray and brown.
That's looking really good.
Yep.
It looks like crap in person. 3 feet away. 3 feet away.
Dark webcam. It looks really good on dark webcam.
That's how all my models are gonna be now. Dark webcam. Hey, he doesn't look too bad, does he?
No, he looks really good, I think.
Yeah, buddy. Well, there's not much I can do right now until the paint dries.
I have 4 models left to get the silver on. And then I am done for the night. What am I I am painting the silver portions of my Primaris.
And now your pants are silver.
So that would
What
be
Primaris?
Oh, the Primaris that came in the original box set from 8th edition.
Nice.
And they are secretly chaos.
Ugh, never. I tried Chaos that one time and it didn't take. I tried Chaos twice actually. I tried the blue ones and the red ones. And neither of them liked me.
Yeah, you really didn't like the red ones.
No.
You gave me those right away. I think I might try to get rid
Zeechlings,
of...
there we go, that's what I called them. I called them Zeechlings.
I hated that.
It made you so mad.
I know. I think I want to consolidate some of the stuff I have. I might trade some people some stuff to get some new armies, freshen it up.
I think that sounds good. What do you want? What are you interested in?
I want Dark Eldar.
We have Dark Eldar.
No, we have like 500 points of Dark Eldar.
That's true.
Yeah, so I want Dark Eldar and more Crisis Protocol.
How, like, what do you mean you want more? What more Crisis Protocol could you possibly want?
There's so many things that came out. You've got all of the rest of the Guardians. So you've got Gamora and Nebula and not Thanos, Drax the Destroyer. You've got Ronin. Those are all out. You've also got all of Thanos' crew. So you've got like Dwarf Star and Ebony Maw. You've got the other guy and the other girl. And then you've got Thanos that's coming out soon. They tease some of his rules. Super stoked.
So you're gonna trade an entire Warhammer 40k army to get Thanos? Is that what you're saying? I know. You should trade exactly half of one army to get Thanos. That'll make him really happy.
I like it. I think I'm done painting for tonight. So this is the final result. There we go. He's painted.
That's exciting.
Tabletop ready. Tabletop.
That is exciting. Where are you at, Aaron?
I've painted lots of little bits of gold and silver trim on a couple guns.
Nice.
Yeah, that's about it.
I have 2 more guys to go. And Sean, have you died in Eve? Did you get murdered and all your stuff stolen?
Nah, I finished 4 little garbage level 4 missions.
Nice.
Yeah. decent bounties on one of them, but kind of sort of not really worth the time, honestly.
I really want to figure out how to do those frigate level 4s.
Oh yeah, I had to pass on one of those because it didn't go so well last time I went.
Apparently you need the worm. You need the ship called the worm.
Yeah.
By the way, did you know that there's a lot of 40k players who play Eve?
Mm-hmm.
A lot.
I also
Didn't
ran into
know
a bunch
that.
of them when I played Nova Empire.
Really?
Yeah. It's quite surprising.
Did I tell you I got a full suit of power armor
What does that mean?
for a Fallout 76?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I can make all the armor. I'm only level 20, but I can make all this crazy armor. It's pretty sweet.
And now that I have that working, we can actually play together.
Yeah. I can make you some stuff.
I made you paint, though. I made you paint a model.
No, he's gonna kill my enchantment.
Are you playing Magic again?
No.
No need to lie.
Hey, so Aaron, are we doing this again next week, like same time?
Yeah, I think. Well, Josh, are we Wednesdays or Thursdays? You got to set me straight.
Well, you had said Thursdays, and then I told you that wasn't gonna work very good. But then we did it anyways, and then we switched it to this week. So I think we just keep it with Wednesdays.
Okay. Yeah, you said last week was the last Thursday, so I think we'll stick with Wednesdays.
Sounds good.
I'm so excited.
I'm gonna try to actually paint next time.
Yeah, this was fun. I like this little hobby time.
Yeah, it's too bad we won't have the Necrons for me to paint.
Aww.
Sad face.
We will be getting you will get the Necrons. Don't worry.
Yeah, Josh, when do you think you're going to get Necrons in your hand?
I don't know. Whenever we get them, I guess.
Oh, that's no fun. Sean,
Oh, I was supposed to send you the extra
month
Necrons.
We'll have 9.
Oh.
What was the question, Aaron?
Does anyone think by the end of this month, 9th edition will be at least on pre-order?
Oh,
man,
I don't
hope
even
so.
guess anymore, man.
All right.
I wait for him to say. I've been disappointed too many times.
Fair.
Hellblasters is all I have left for silver, so that's exciting. I'm going to close my paintbrush up here. Any final thoughts?
How do you close your paintbrush?
I mean, my paint pot. I close my paint pot. You close your paintbrush by just folding. You fold the bristles over. You don't store your brushes by folding the bristles over. You're weird.
How weird.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on the Cool Guys Nation for our weekly live stream. I hope that everybody is safe and well, and that you continue to be safe and well. And we will see you all on the table.